Welcome to the Brain Picker Pro Show, live from Lake Wiley, South Carolina on the East Coast and all the way over 3,000 plus miles away in Southern California is my good friend, fellow mastermind member over at CG Collective Genius. You guys have heard me talk about that, is Roman Shersher. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Larry. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome, man. I'm excited about it because, sometimes we see each other at the meetings. Sometimes we don't. There's like 4 different groups and I go to the East Coast. You probably go to a lot of the West Coast stuff. And so it'll be great to catch up. And I know you got a lot of cool stuff to share with our viewers.
We also recently went to the Kahuna Cash Flow seminar.
That's right. That's right. You and I were together there. I knew I'd seen you somewhere else recently. Yeah. I couldn't remember. In fact, I just recorded a podcast with Corey yesterday.
Corey? Oh, that's great. Corey's a great guy. Met him many years ago in CG. Also, my partner and someone else you interviewed recently, Mike Zlotnick. We were there with him, and our acquisitions director actually lives in Phoenix, which is also where Corey's from.
Awesome. That's great. So why don't you start out and tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Myself.
Yeah.
My name is Roman Shersher. I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of California. I have a small boutique brokerage here, but it's mostly in order to enable me to do better and more profitable real estate investment transactions. I've been full-time in real estate investing since 2007. I once bought a program from a couple of people at a real estate investment meeting. One of those programs was by a gentleman named Larry Goins that taught me a lot about how to purchase property at discounts directly from sellers. And I put my first property under contract in the summer of 2007. If anyone tells you it's a hot market, too many people are in the market, there's no way it's going to work, there was no hotter time in the market with more competition in the last cycle than in July of 2007 when I put my first property under contract. Found a buyer off of Craigslist to take it. It was a rehab. It was in horrible condition. A hoarder lived there. There was 4 dumpsters it took to clear this 800 square foot little shack of a house.
Uh-huh.
I ended up selling the contract to a rehabber who was also a licensed inspector, so he knew his way around the property. He'd been there a couple of times.
Right.
When I'd let him in. And in my first ever deal, I cleared 6 figures.
That's huge.
Just wholesaling it. I never even touched the property. I got a good relationship with the seller. I helped them out with a situation and a problem they had, put them together with a buyer, made 6 figures on my first transaction, and it hooked me. I'd never looked back. I knew this was the business for me, and we've been kind of perfecting that process ever since.
That's awesome, man. Why did I never get a testimonial from you?
I owe you a lot of them. And since then, we've expanded. We were in Southern California only Southern California until about 2014.
Right.
And then the foreclosures kind of dried out of our market, and I noticed that we were getting a lot less acceptances. I had a team in place. We were sending out about 150 to 180 offers every single month. In order to send that quantity, you have to actually analyze 700-800 properties off the MLS. And on average, we were getting about 6 to 8 acceptances per month. Our goal was to flip 2 of them, rehab and resell 2 of them,
right?
Wholesale 2 of them, and then the other 2 to 4 would fall apart for whatever reason. We'd get into the property. The repairs were more significant than we expected.
Right.
Something along those lines. All of a sudden, in 2014, I noticed my numbers shrank. Those 6 to 8 acceptances became 2.
Right.
So that's when, in that type of a market, you start looking to expand into other markets. We did a thorough analysis and model of 30 different cities throughout the country. We were looking for the ability to buy and hold rentals, the ability to copy our model there, which is wholesaling and rehabbing. And so we ended up expanding 2 cities in particular, caught our attention. I thought I would end up in Texas, but until I did this analysis, it showed that the best markets for our purposes were Jacksonville and Orlando, Florida. And I have a partner, Mike Zlotnick, who was our former lender as well, not former, current. So we ended up in Jacksonville. And we've been there since 2015, working, flipping. We own a portfolio of rentals there, as well as wholesaling. And we have a pretty decent wholesaling operation there as well. We do some business as well in Phoenix.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You mentioned just a second ago about you did a thorough analysis over the country and eventually landed in Jacksonville and Orlando. What type of analysis did you do to come up with the markets that you determined were ripe?
So we looked at a number of factors. We wanted to make sure that we were going into a market that did not have an inventory shortage, which is one of the major reasons why we wanted to expand into another market.
Right.
So we looked at inventory levels. Like I mentioned, I thought I would be in Texas, in particular. The Houston market intrigued me. But what we found was that their inventory shortage was worse than ours. They'd lost in a 2-year period 35% of their inventory.
Right.
And so it was going to be even the competition was growing in all markets, but there the inventory had shrunk. So one thing we wanted to make sure was that they didn't have inventory shortages. So we looked at days on market, we looked at supply, months of supply on the market. The other thing we wanted to make sure is that we were buying in a good rental area. So we wanted to make sure there's a mature industry, not a small town. We wanted to make sure that it was a major metropolitan area in terms of population.
Right.
Jacksonville has 1.8 million people there with a huge naval presence and a lot of mature industry. We looked at income levels. We wanted to make sure that the income levels would support the rents that we were looking to charge. The rents there were still modest. Prices were a key factor because we also wanted to make sure that the people with the incomes could afford the homes, because in the LA market right now, you can't buy a shack in certain areas for $1 million.
I believe it.
And so housing affordability here is extremely low. We also looked at certain rent to purchase price ratios. So, for example, we wanted a 1% rental figure per month. Okay, so how does that equate? If you have a home there that's $100,000, that's our all-in cost on the property. We wanted that to rent for about $1,000 a month.
Right.
In my local market out here, you buy $1 million home and you're getting about $4,000 per month for that home. So you're only getting a 0.4% rent. We call it an RV ratio, a rent to value ratio. Out in Jacksonville, the purchases we made were anywhere from about 0.8 to 1.2 RV, which means that I'm getting twice the return on my money, twice the return on my work as I would get here in Los Angeles. And so there were a few markets that gave us those ratios, but they were not as strong economically as Jacksonville was, which is why we went out there. Now, obviously, we've been there since 2015. Values have gone up in all markets. Those numbers aren't as exciting today as they were back then.
Right.
It's difficult to get 1% RV in any market like we were in 2015. Those ratios have shrunk a little bit, but it's still we're still getting some pretty decent ratios out there. Yeah,
especially on the higher price stuff, like the $100,000 house or more. It's a little tougher to get 1%. But once you start getting down in the lower stuff, 30, 40, 50,000,
right.
You can get $500, $600, $700 a month on those.
Exactly. And we bought a lot of properties in the 40s, 50s. Went in there, put 20,000 into it. We're into it for 70,000, and we're renting them for 850 to 900.
Good.
So we're actually, if you look at it in comparison to cost, we're getting even more than 1%. But we try to estimate those numbers and be conservative. We do it off of value.
That's good.
What property is worth.
I like that. So you've got some rentals, you're buying rentals, and you're doing some wholesaling in Jacksonville as well, right?
So we went into the Jacksonville market expecting to wholesale, rehab, and start building a portfolio out there.
Right.
And started building a pretty good buyer's list. We also teamed up with a good realtor, a good broker in that local market to help offload the properties that we put under contract. We do a lot of direct mail out there, as well as online advertising, both Google, Facebook, Google pay-per-click and Facebook. And so we're doing some decent volume. We picked up a lot of different properties and tried to use our systems and processes in place. But we've had contractor issues down there. And so we ended up making a little bit of money in rehabbing. We also ended up losing quite a bit as well, dealing with difficult contractor issues out there. We even hired a project manager, and the project manager even had difficulties with contractors out there.
Right.
And so, lesson I learned is that you cannot copy everything that you have in your local market in another market without having boots on the ground on a regular basis. And also the different cultures are different in different markets.
Sure.
That proved to be a little bit of an issue for us. And so another issue that occurred was that our business right now is very crowded. Every weekend, there's coming out with a lot of investors that are coming out trying to secure their incomes, trying to secure their lives, and by doing so in real estate, where most millionaires have been built in this country. And so they come out, they just spent a lot of money, they're eager and willing to get into this market. And so they're overpaying for property. We're seeing a lot of competition where people are paying for these properties much more than we think that they're worth. We have no idea how they're going to make money at these prices that they're paying.
And they're not.
They're not. They're not. A lot of them are losing money. And the funny thing is, they lose money. They go into these properties, they overpay for them to lose and try to use the tips and techniques and the tricks and the education that they just received. They lose money in it. They have a bad taste in their mouth. They'll never do another real estate deal, but there's another seminar coming out with another 1,000 people that are jumping right in. Now, so as our investor pool has grown that are making offers on our properties,
right,
the pool of contractors has not.
Right.
And so we're finding that the good contractors, they can now charge significantly more, which sometimes puts them out of our realm of using them.
Right.
But also the ones that aren't as good are the ones that you're left with that are affordable. And so and they are being stretched thin. So there's a shortage of good contractors out there. I wish there was as many seminars out there with contractors who would get experience coming out as there are real estate investor seminars. So good contractors are hard to find right now. And so what we've decided over the years, we got into a pretty scary situation. We at one point had 16 properties on the market that were not renovated correctly. And so then you have to go back in,
right,
just all the money that you'd allocated for the rehab budgets for these properties. And I have to find more money to go put into these properties, take them off the market. You're paying carrying costs throughout this whole process, re-renovate those, and then again try to offload those. So it was a little bit of a scary situation. Luckily, we were able to take ourselves out of it. But what we made the decision was that we're only going to wholesale in a non-local market going forward.
That's probably a really, really good move because it is tough to manage rehabs. I've actually wholesaled to houses to people who were trying to do rehabs long distance. And some of them had never even done one rehab before, much less one locally, right? So
that's mind-boggling.
It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a really, really good move. Let's talk a little bit about marketing because marketing is the lifeblood of any business, right? And even though you moved into Jacksonville a while back, I know that market has changed just like a lot of markets. I'm in the Carolinas, and even I was buying only from HUD and MLS up until the last probably 3 to 6 months ago, right? And my deals started dwindling down. So I had to start doing some direct mail and some pay-per-click. And you mentioned Google PPC and Facebook. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing to market for deals in your Jacksonville market.
Yeah, so there are a number of channels that we go after. We do a lot of direct mail to this day. We send out probably 20 to 30,000 pieces of direct mail per month. We're also not the only ones that do that. We're finding that a lot of our CG brethren, their marketing budgets have increased and they're dropping a lot more direct mail as the direct mail response rate has gone down.
Right.
I remember that in 2007, when I started, I would consistently get between 1 to 2% of our direct mail marketing to call in.
Right.
That number today is less than 0.5% because a lot of people that own property are getting consistent postcards and letters in the mail.
Right.
And they have been for many years. The key to marketing, I would say, is consistency. It's something that I didn't do well when I first got into this business. The typical trends that you see of a real estate investor is that they realize, okay, I want to get deals. So what do? They start pumping out marketing, right? And then all of a sudden, the phone starts ringing, and they start putting properties under contract. All of a sudden, you got 2 deals that you're ready to go and renovate. So you stop marketing,
right?
Stop that whole process. Then you go in and you start renovating the deals. Then you renovated it, you put it on the market, and then you realize, whoa, I got nothing to do now. I got to go start marketing again. And so you're constantly going through this up and down, of chasing the next deal. The key to marketing and the key to a consistent business is definitely is consistency in your marketing. They say that in order to get a deal, you have to touch that prospect 7+ times to get an effective return ratio on your marketing.
Right.
And that's typically not what people end up doing. They only send out 1 mailing to the same list. Maybe twice they'll mail to the same list. You have to hit them over and over. Your brand has to come through. They have to see your name over and over in order to. It builds trust within the seller.
Right.
What am I doing in terms of marketing? We're trying to hit a number of different avenues. So online marketing, we work with a company that specializes in it. Another thing I like to do is outsource to the professionals. Know what your genius zone, what your core competency is.
Right.
And work with other people that are professionals in that. I've tried to, in the past, save money here, save money there, and what I've ended up doing is spent a lot more time. And time, the longer I've been in this business, time is our true enemy, and could be our in our corner as well if you use it wisely. So I'd like to outsource as much of my marketing as I can.
Right.
We do have an in-house person that gets our lists. That's something I don't want to outsource. I want to be able to make sure that our lists are fresh. And we use a number of different lists. One of the key lists that's working for us right now is a code compliance list. Now, the hardest lists to get are often the best ones to market to because they're hard for everyone to get. It's easy to call a title company and get their list, but everyone else is doing that as well. And those people on that list are getting 10, 15 different competitors' postcards.
Right.
If you find a list that you're able to get that is hard to get, there are fewer people mailing to that list. So one that's been successful for us recently is a code compliance and a code violation list. So we're actually going down to the city or contacting the city, and there's something called the Freedom of Information Act that was passed a few years ago. And so these cities are required to provide you the information this information. So you call up and find out you want code violations on properties, and not only the ones that are active code violations, the ones that have been completed. So in other words, those homeowners have actually gone into the property, have actually fixed the code violations in those properties that those properties had, and those are completed code violations. The reason this is good is this: they've just spent a lot of money on this potential headache of a rental of a property
right.
they're dealing with. And so you hit them right after that point, and they may be willing to and interested in getting out of that headache situation. If they're not, some investors out there have 1-2 homes that are not providing any income for them, and those code violation properties, they typically have much more issues than just the code violations.
Right.
So if you make them a quick offer, take this headache off their hand, it may be a good situation, and you can pick up some good properties. We have quite a few properties we've picked up that way.
Wow, that's really good. And it's not like it's a huge list either.
It's a small list, exactly.
That's really good. I love that. I love that. Now, do you go to the city or to the county code enforcement, or both? And does someone have to physically go down there, or can you get them online?
So in Jacksonville, we are actually we called into the city. We have some boots on the ground in Jacksonville, but we called into the city and we were able to get their list. You have to purchase it, and basically you're purchasing someone else's time to mine that data out of their systems.
Right. Okay, that's really good. I love that idea. That's a great idea. So, what are some other things that you're doing to market in that area? You've got direct mail. You're pulling your own list. You got code enforcement. What are some other things that you're doing? I'm sure probably Facebook marketing or something like that.
Yeah, we do Facebook marketing. So we also have Google pay-per-click. So we work with a company that specializes in that type of advertising. We provide them the information that they need about us.
Right. And
they're the ones that are on Google and Facebook algorithms are changing on a monthly basis. We're not the professionals at monitoring specifically those changes in algorithms. And so we hire professionals that do that for us. We provide them, we have a certain online budget, and they're doing that for us. We have other direct mail lists that we market to, the same list that a lot of people are marketing to, out-of-state owners, renters, non-owner occupied lists, those types of lists, probates. The key is consistency. Most people are going after the same lists. You want to just be consistent. You want to hit them over and over and over. Make sure that your marketing is hitting them on a regular basis, and they're constantly seeing your name. Because you never know when you're going to hit that person at the right time. It's not just about making the right offer; it's the right timing on their end. And so you want to solve that problem for them when it becomes a problem for them. And
right.
Unless you're being consistent in your marketing, you may not hit them at the right time. That's
so true. So you're obviously spending some pretty big bucks on marketing, and you've got boots on the ground. What kind of volume are you guys doing?
So in Jacksonville, we're doing we're closing about 4 to 6 wholesales per month. We're doing on average 1 transaction a quarter out here in LA. It's a lot harder in Los Angeles.
Right.
And a few rehabs that we're currently working on in Phoenix. We still have some properties legacy properties that we're working on offloading in Jacksonville. But we've gotten to the point where we're scaling up, and we're trying to get from 4 to 6 transactions per month. We're trying to move that needle and get to about 8 to 10 a month.
That's awesome. What's your average profit on a deal?
Average profit we've seen increase over time because we've done more in terms of training of our staff,
right?
Training of our salespeople, and so we've actually seen that go up.
Good.
As you know, in Jacksonville, the price points are lower. They're anywhere from we're picking up properties anywhere from 50 to 150,000, and so our average used to be around the 8,000 per wholesale level. Now we're running close to 15 to 18,000, and that is a direct result of the training that we put into our staff.
That's awesome, man. I love that. I love that. Then nothing beats a good closer, right?
And they're hard to find. Unemployment is at an all-time low. It's hard to find good people.
Thanks, Trump. You might not want to hear that.
It's hard. And the thing is that the hardest thing to find in business that I've found is capable and trustworthy people to work with. And so when you do, you fight for them.
That's really good. So tell us, what does your process model look like? I mean, you're in Southern California, and in the beautiful area over there, and then you got a team of people or boots on the ground over in Jacksonville. What does that boots on the ground look like, and what exactly do they do? I mean, do they sell the seller over the phone, or do they run an appointment? Do you have a lead manager? How does all that work when the lead comes in?
Yeah, so right now we're kind of all over the place, but our process works. What currently happens is we're sending direct mail into Jacksonville. That direct mail, we have about 14 different phone numbers I have a whole list of different phone numbers here.
Based on the lead source. Based on the lead source.
It's based on lead source and, of course, based on market, right? Our Los Angeles market has Los Angeles-based area codes. Our Jacksonville market has different Jacksonville area code phone numbers that we're using. So we have about 14 different Jacksonville phone numbers, and they're all calling into a call center. We're picking them up directly in-house unless it's off hours. If it's off hours, we have a call center that picks up the phone. Mm-hmm. They're asking them initial questions. That then goes into our CRM, our software, and then our acquisitions managers then call them back within 24 hours. If it's an online lead, you have to call that back right away. You lose half of your online leads if you call them back after 5 minutes. That's what I've learned through Facebook and Google marketing. If you don't speak to that person within 5 minutes, you lose half of them. You'll never speak to them again. You'll never have the opportunity. So
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, it's important. That's right. Call back your online leads within 5 minutes. Otherwise, you'll lose half of them. And if you don't speak to them within 24 hours, you'll lose 90% of them. So we take those calls in-house, or a call center takes that. Then it gets routed to our acquisitions manager, and then they call the prospect, see if it's a valid prospect, and if we need to put boots on the ground. We try to lock up these contracts over the phone and then send someone in. We give ourselves, because we're not local, we try to get a 21-day inspection period, which is long. It's a big inspection period, but we're doing it successfully. And then we'll send someone in to verify on the ground the condition of the property, and then at that point we start sending it out to our buyers list once we already have the contract locked up.
That's good. So your guy doesn't go out there initially. He gets it tied up over the phone, right? Correct. But after our last CG meeting and telling our CG brethren, they recommend that we also hire someone on the ground to try to close those people in-house, in their homes. And so we're going to test that model as well within the next few months. Yeah, our model is we set an appointment with everybody that'll set, and then we go out and see everybody that'll let us in the house, right? That's our model. Now, it might waste my guys' time a little bit, but you never know. You get out there, they might have another property. You might see something else. Be able to make the deal work. So that's our model is if they'll set an appointment, we are booking the appointment. That's what I have.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It makes sense. And, we've done this effectively this way for 3 years now. And even here in the Los Angeles market, Southern California is so spread out that you could literally make an appointment with someone in your same city and it'll take you 2 hours to get there.
Right.
But not to mention our traffic.
Right.
So we've done it successfully where we've been able to lock up these properties over the phone. We got a pretty good system on doing that, a decent script, and our acquisitions guys have gotten really good at putting these properties under contract. But we want to test this, test being in their homes as well, and see if it's more effective and how much more effective. We're told that it's going to be more effective. I look forward to that, but I want to see how much more effective it is and compare that to the cost involved with actually being on the ground and being in their homes.
That's good. That's good. So basically, you don't really even have to have the way you're doing it now. Your acquisition guy doesn't have to be in Jacksonville. He can be over the phone in Phoenix or Southern California or anywhere.
That's exactly right. Right now, our acquisitions guy is we have one person answering phones here in my local market in Los Angeles. My acquisitions director, who's our closer, closes them in Phoenix, and our properties are in Jacksonville, Phoenix, and in Los Angeles. And even the ones in Phoenix, he's not even going out to see them in his local market. Now, if it's a certain opportunity, of course, we're going to try to send someone out there. But you don't even have to have staff. The people that are actually going into our properties in Jacksonville are our real estate agents that are helping to offload our properties.
Right.
So they're going out there, and the relationship there is they're the agents that are going to sell the properties that we put under contract. And so they go at it from that perspective, that they're going to verify that the buyer, which is us, is purchasing a property that is, in fact, representative of what they've told us,
right,
and research that we've done.
Well, it sounds like most of yours are going on the MLS.
If we put a property under contract directly from the seller, we typically first give it to our buyers list and our VIP buyers, if you would,
right,
and give them first right of refusal. We'll give them 24 hours to say yay or nay. If not, then the way our contracts are set up, it gives us the right. The seller has to give you the right to market the property. It gives us the right to market the property to the buyers we know and the buyers that we may find, and that which includes the MLS. And we specify that on the actual documentation.
That's really good.
If you don't have the contract language that allows you to do that, then you're putting the broker that's listing the property on the market, you're putting him in jeopardy.
Right, right. That's really good. I'm assuming you guys use something like DocuSign or something to have your sellers sign everything.
So it depends. We try to use DocuSign, but some of our sellers, some of our sellers don't even have computers, and so you then have to drive someone out. Funny story. I just recently read one of our CG brethren. He posted in our forum. How do you get a signature from someone that does not have a fax?
I saw that. Yeah.
Have a computer. And so someone recommended having an Uber driver come out there with a contract, sign it, and bring it back. I thought that was incredibly smart. I'm looking into Uber now.
I started to respond, but luckily a couple of people had responded with the correct answer. You have a signing service, a notary service. Go out and do it.
Yeah, that would absolutely work as well.
Yeah, they know exactly what they're doing. They know how to do stuff like that. That's really good. That's awesome, man. So, what kind of words of wisdom, words of advice do you have for somebody that may just be getting started, or maybe they're looking at doing, scaling up, going to the next level, and, or maybe even they're in this market and it's such a hot market? Because I have so many people that tell me my market is so hot right now. I need to find another place to buy properties. And you have done it. You're right here, right now. What kind of words of wisdom would you give to somebody that is here and it's a hot market, but they want to start buying over there?
So I spent a lot of time in the Jacksonville market. I was flying there monthly, sometimes multiple times a month. Just don't, if you're looking to add a complementary market, the key to doing that is to find someone trustworthy and capable in that market to work with. If you have to give up a piece of the equity, do it. It's worth it. It'll manage a lot of the headaches that you have on the ground, because once you're there, stuff comes up all the time, and unless you have someone there that you trust, that it has skin in the game with you, it's hard to really manage the process in a market like that. Also, don't think that every market is similar.
Right.
That's what we thought, and we found a big difference in the culture of the people. Their perceptions of value are different than what we have here in Southern California. It's not going to work out exactly the way you want. Make sure you have someone out there that can help you weather the storms of the ups and downs that are natural in this business. In terms of starting up, I would, I touched on this earlier, is the consistency in your marketing. If you found a good list, even if it's a bad list, keep mailing to it. Touch it at least 8 times. Mail to it 4 months or 8 months, once a month, once every 2 weeks, and and measure the effectiveness of that marketing campaign. Make sure that you're not just mailing to a list one time. It's a mistake I made. When I got into this business, and I realized over time, after speaking to marketing specialists, people that all they do are direct mail houses for people in our business. The key is consistency in marketing.
That's awesome, man. Very good words of wisdom from the man, the legend, and the myth himself. I really appreciate it.
I'm also putting together a program right now, which I think is key, especially when starting out and when buying properties. There are techniques to buying these properties, and unfortunately, not too many people are buying correctly. What saved me in the losses that I encountered in Jacksonville, what saved me in the properties that were marginal here in California that I put under contract throughout the last 10 years, is that I bought them correctly. Right. And like they say in real estate, you don't make money when you sell the property. You make money on the buy, and if you buy it correctly. So right now we're coming out with a program called House Buying Blueprint. Website's going to be housebuyingblueprint.com, that teaches both first-time home buyers and people that are looking to purchase a property for themselves, as well as really good buying techniques on how to beat out the competition for real estate investors out there. Putting together a program on that, and we're hoping to help people out there that are looking to purchase.
That's awesome, man. That is great. That's very well needed. It's something that's needed in the market, right?
We think so. We've talked to a lot of agents. We're getting tips and techniques from different agents in the marketplace as to what they're doing in such a hot market. I mean, buyers out there are literally going up against 10 to 20 offers in my market. So there's tips and techniques that we've used to beat out that competition. Inspection periods reduction, how to different clauses that you can put in your contracts that make it more advantageous for a seller to work with you. Working with the seller's preferred agent. Little tips and little tricks, because it's not just the price that you offer that will get you that property. Oftentimes it's the terms. I've gotten properties and my offers accepted on properties that I was lower in price than the other offers there, but my terms were significantly better, and the sellers went with me and sold me their properties.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome, man. I really appreciate that. It's been some really, really, really good information. A lot of good content. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, should they go to that website you mentioned, or is there any other contact info you'd like to give out?
Yeah, so they can go to housebuyingblueprint.com. We have contact forms there. We also have an email, info@housebuyingblueprint.com. That comes into my assistant. If you want to work with me directly or call me directly, email me directly. It's the best form of reaching me. It's Roman@housebuyingblueprint.com, and you'll get right through to me.
Awesome, man. That sounds good. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know when we're recording this, it's a little early out there for you still, but I appreciate you taking the time so early in the morning.
There's one last thing I'd like to say. I appreciate that you having me on. You're one of the first people that I ever listened to that gave me inspiration to do this business, and it's an honor and quite an achievement to be doing a podcast with you. I still have your program on my bookshelf right there.
I love it, man. I love it. That is awesome. Well, I really, really appreciate your kind words. It's very, very nice, and I'm so happy and thrilled for your success. And you're a mover and a shaker now. You made it, man. You're doing deals, and you're in it full time, especially in a tough market. You started in one of the toughest markets there is out there, right?
I'm in a couple of really tough markets right now, but you know what? Consistency, presence, and brand. 3 things that I think are most important. So those, you're going to win.
That's awesome, man. I really, really appreciate it.